Today I'm joined by Chantel Woodhead, who played for England. Yes, the beloved England. And Chantel, I welcome you to the show today.
Hi, thank you. Good morning, Jamie.
Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much for joining me. And it's quite good, actually, because obviously we won the Euros the other day. So that's a great story to have alongside this one. So could you start us off then with your early days playing football? What was it like?
Generally, my father played, and I just went to watch him in the early days, and obviously got the bug more or less straight away. I think often it's in the genes, so I think it passed down from my dad. Started playing about 13 years old, 12 or 13, with Farsley Celtic. That's where I began my career. And I really enjoyed it. I just had a lot of fun. But I think there definitely was a little bit of talent there that people picked out. And I moved on to Bradford City and played with them for many years, just doing five-a-sides, tournaments all over the country, having battles with like Hull City, on a regular basis. And, it was really, really enjoyable. So I had a good time. Went from Bradford City to a team called Bronte, who were just in the National League and a step up. And then from there, I left a lot of my friends, actually, because friends kind of went together to teams. And I had about 4 or 5 friends, and we all united at Bronte. And that was one of the happiest seasons that I've ever had, playing football with your friends for no money. Were some of the best days of my life, absolutely, at Bronte. And then I got a little bit too good without being big-headed for that team. And a lot of us did, actually. And one of my friends went to Millwall. Two of my friends went to Arsenal. And I didn't want to leave Yorkshire because I'm very stuck here. I don't like leaving. And so there were no way I were going to go to London. And then Doncaster Belles was an option for me. So I ended up going to Doncaster Belles for about 5 years. In the first year, did the treble. So we won the FA Cup, the League and the League Cup. And then moved from Doncaster Belles to Everton for the last 5 years of my career. So I played for many teams. I had a brief spell, actually, for a year at Leeds United as well. I remember Leeds were given a lot of money, and they recruited a lot of players, including some of the England players as well. Sue Smith was one of them at Leeds United, and I moved there for a year. And then it was okay, but it didn't go to plan, to be fair. And I went back to Everton, and we ended up playing Leeds v Everton, at Garforth Town's ground. And I got a lot of stick on that game, let me tell you, going back to Leeds in a blue shirt as a toffee.
Well, to be fair, looking at the women's game now, it is crazy to see, even in the last couple of years, how much it's grown. But when you were at Bradford City, one of the first teams in your career, what was the setup like over there? Were you training at a good place? I mean, obviously nowhere near to what it might be now.
We was training, most of my life I've trained in a park.
Wow.
So no facilities, no changing. I've got changed in the car, probably come straight from work. When I was at Doncaster, we trained at the racecourse. I'm surprised they haven't put a bet on us, we're there that often. So Doncaster Belles, weren't even associated with Doncaster Rovers at the time. There was a lot of negativity. Clubs didn't want to associate. And I'm really disappointed that I found out the other day, because all my life, I feel like I've played for Bradford City. All my life, we had the Bradford City kit. We associated with Bradford City. And I found out recently that, because we had a girl who played, and she was something like 12, and she was one of the youngest players who played for an open age team. And that was just history and a record. And then it came on Instagram or something, Bradford City Now, saying this girl was the youngest player. And I thought, well, she's not, because was our youngest player. And one of my friends said, oh no, we wasn't actually associated with the club at that time. Although we were called Bradford City, we wasn't, in association with them. They gave us nothing, absolutely nothing. But we called ourselves Bradford City. So I'm quite disappointed to look back and think, well, did I play for Bradford City, or we called ourselves Bradford City? But they apparently the record is starting now with a clean slate. So where's all my history gone? That
It's good.
that I don't know what's going on there, but where's my history gone of playing for that club if they're now portraying the history as it is now?
Mm.
So that's a bit disappointing.
Yeah, for sure.
But
And looking at the game now, as I just said, it's grown so much.
yeah.
What was it like back then to be around the women's game and to be one of the players itself? Was there a lot of stick from other people? And if so, I could probably guess who it was from, but who was it from?
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, it was very rare that I would tell anybody that I played football. It wasn't something that I mentioned. Even when I played for England, I don't think it was something I was shouting about. And that is because I'm not being awful, but nobody cared. Nobody was interested. And I think when you said that you played ladies football, people had a perception of it and was quite judgmental in maybe the look of the women, or they just had an image of it, and you didn't want to actually associate yourself with that. So I wouldn't mention, if somebody were talking about women's football, I'd keep quiet, because I don't want the the negativity around that, and to be almost labelled just nothing to do with me, just somebody's put a label on me, just because I play women's football. So it was something I didn't actually talk about a lot.
Well, did you ever talk about the FA Cup win? Because that was quite something in any bit of history to win the
Yeah,
FA Cup.
very rarely mention it,
Wow.
to be fair. I know I did it. I know I won the FA Cup, and I'm very proud of it, and obviously I have my medal. But it's not something that really comes up that I go, oh, do you know I've got an FA Cup medal? And it just shows you some people, they don't kind of, not gloat about it, but they don't shout it from the rooftops. They're quite quiet heroes. And I think that's what I think I was at like a speaking event the other day, and there was 5 players that I put it on my social media, and we were all the Doncaster Belles, was about 5 or 6 of us, and we all met up for a speaking event, and it was just like it were yesterday. And we sang, Sweet Carolina together, and we had a little sing song, and it was just like we'd never left, 30 years later, and we've still got that camaraderie and everything. We're still there. But yeah, it was a great career at Doncaster Belles. But what I'm saying is, all those 5 players who were singing that song had 259 caps between them. 259. And I don't think on my social media, I've got a bit of response, but not a lot. And they haven't got the recognition that, they've played in finals and things like that. And 259 caps, them girls. And I bet you wouldn't know it walking down the street. If you passed Jill Coulthard, MBE, you wouldn't know it. So just because people are not aware doesn't mean to say there are silent and quiet heroes out there that have actually done it, but don't need that recognition.
So in the run into the FA Cup final,
Yeah.
I'm obviously quite right in saying that the FA were in the game somewhat. They had some of a foot in the door because they arranged this, right?
Yes, the FA.
Yeah. So in the run into this final, who did you play and what was it like? Because the final had over 1,600 fans. So what was that in comparison to your weekly attendance?
Yeah, I mean, for a long time it was one man and its dog, and my dad, I think, and other people's parents. So we wasn't getting a lot of people in the early days. But as the years went on, and Doncaster Belles were, one of the best teams in the country, if not the best. Forget Arsenal, we were the top club in the north, and we'd play together. And I think with Doncaster Belles, they had a fan base, and I think a lot of people got behind the team, and we got up, hundreds, and then obviously for your finals you'd go into the thousands, and that is when it was starting to turn a little bit, the corner. It was on maybe BBC 5, or Channel 5, and then it moved on to Sky, so we was on Sky, so it was getting a little bit more coverage. But for a long time, the finals weren't even, captured. So I'm not sure if it was Liverpool we played, but scenes. I mean, it's not just the FA Cup; it's the build up to it as well. You'll stay away with the team. The banter will be there. You'll stay in a hotel, and that again is not something we would often do together as a team. As semi-professionals, getting together and spending time at the hotel. is rare. So we would do that on that occasion. We'd have all the kit, we'd look the part, and we were very excited. And to walk on, to any final is just a dream, isn't it? So I think I played it. I'm not sure if I played in 1 or 2. My history is very sketchy because if nobody's recorded it, I'll be honest, Jamie, I can't remember half my life. I've moved on. I've slept since then. And so I've probably played in a lot more than I actually have said I've played in, actually. But I do remember the victory, obviously. And that is a special thing for me to be able to say that I've won the FA Cup.
And at full time, what was it like for you? Would you run onto the pitch? Everyone was there, as a team?
Yeah, a lot of fans. You talking about when I won it?
Yeah.
When I won it, obviously, all the crowd was going mad. People had placards up. We'd sign autographs. We'd be getting pictures. Just what they do now, really. That's just something you do, and obviously celebrating with our friends and family. But mostly the team and the manager. That togetherness, that journey that we'd come on. That the Lionesses are in now. That period of, that bubble of you floating on air. We'd gone through the ups and downs together, and to get that victory, we just loved each other. And the manager, we had so much respect, and he loved us, and nothing seedy or anything. It was just, you saw Serena kissing the players and the other day, and there's nothing in it. It's that respect of, well done, kid. We've done what we set out to do, and we've delivered.
Well, 1995, speaking about England, you got your first call-up.
Yeah.
And it was probably, unfortunately, your only call-up, and there's a reason for that, but I suppose you'll talk about that in a moment. But you got called up to go to Italy, to play Italy in Florence. So what was that like? What an occasion.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd been in and out of the England squad for 4 years prior to my actual cap. So I was a regular. It wasn't just a one-off. I was a regular member of the squad, training at Lilleshall, things like that, where we had obviously all the equipment. So I was always in that like 23, 24. I was always in that, not necessarily the 11, but I was in the squad. And many things happened, things like 5-a-side sixes in Glasgow. I played with England in that in the early days. That was sponsored by Carling. So interesting, let's just say, interesting after party. When you're sponsored by Carling, back in them days. I was in the Euros as well, back there as a squad member. And I remember one time, I can't remember what ground it was, but we'd gone to a ground, I was in the squad, and there was an era, a bit like the Lucy Bronze era recently, where she didn't be able to go on because there'd been something happened with the paperwork. And this had happened on my occasion as well. And it turned out that somebody had to be dropped to the stand, if you like. And that happened to be me. I think it was at Rotherham or something. And John Bilton had said, "Oh, there's a mistake being happened. I'm going to have to sit it out." So I had a lot of what I felt were a bit of bad luck, really. But I went through quite a few managers. Barry Williams plucked me out of the under-21s in the early days. Obviously saw a bit of talent and put me to the open age. And then we had John Bilton, who was, I like John. He liked me, he believed in me. And he always said to me, "Channy," he said, "Jill Coulthard waited years for her first cap." He said, "So don't worry." And obviously she went on to get many. But, I felt like they were priming me to be that player in the future. And everything was building towards that. So 4 nice years with the England squad, travelling as a squad player, always with the hope to push into the England team in the first 11. And all was going quite well. And then John got sacked. And Ted Copeland came in. And I just don't know what to say about Ted. He just turned my world upside down, really. And a very different managerial way that he managed. I felt like it was very dictatorshipish. It was like being not in prison, but I've never been in prison, not yet, hopefully, touch wood. But it felt like very restricted, and there were lots of rules, and I couldn't have a sausage at breakfast, and things, very bizarre things. But I have a little bit of personality, and I'm not going to change that actually for anyone, even though maybe I might have moved on further should I have conformed. So I don't honestly think he liked anybody with a personality who maybe laughed or something like that. I don't think he liked that. And he kind of culled the squad. And obviously, like it happens, new managers come in. Sometimes your face fits, sometimes it doesn't. And unfortunately, mine didn't. Joe Broadhurst was another lady who got dropped at that time. I think even Kerry Davis at the end of her career. So it wasn't just myself. He culled some big stars actually out of that team who he didn't have the plan for. Yeah, I mean, the reason that came out, obviously that ended it, was a bit bizarre as well, where, you know, all it was just nonsense, to be fair. I hadn't done anything wrong. I was a hard-working player. I put effort in, you know, I had big dreams and, you know, I'd have done anything the manager wanted me to do. But did they speak to you ever and sit down and talk to you? And no, there was no communication. We very rarely saw the manager, and he certainly didn't speak to us particularly unless he were dictating something to us. So this particular day when we'd gone to Italy in Florence and was in the hotel, everything had been going okay. We were all just chilling really. It was maybe mid-evening, I think, and nobody had their own the tracksuit on that we were given. You're always given kit. So we had the big tracksuits and things like that. And nobody had it on. I was just in the room with about 4 players. And none of us had any tracksuit on. We were just in our own gear. And my mistake was I walked out into the corridor. And I think, if I recollect, I think I went and opened this door. And it was the manager's door. And I shut it right quick, you know, like you do. And thought, oh, no. And then just tiptoed off. And the assistant manager, Julie Hemsley, not a fan. And she walked me down the road or down the corridor and she said, "Where's your tracksuit?" And I said, "Nobody's got the tracksuit on." You know, I didn't know we had to wear it. And she said, "Well, you're given a tracksuit and you're expected to wear it, you know." And I said, "Well, I didn't know, you know, I didn't know. What can I say?" You know, and then I played in the match, which was really, if you're going to drop me before the match, you know. But they let me play in the match and I sang the national anthem. And I always kind of knew that I was going to have the first half anyway. So it wasn't like I got brought off because I'd done particularly anything. And yeah, I went on, I played the match. I came off for Hope Powell at some point in that match, just in the second half, I think it was. And yeah, did all right. I wasn't over worried. It wasn't my best game in the world, not going to lie. That particular time as well, there was a lot going on on that particular day. It was horrendous behind the scenes. Things like, Kaz Walker got dropped. They said she were injured. She wasn't. She was sat on the bench with me, not happy. And then I have Jill Coulthard, who had the captaincy taken off her. And this was all on that kind of time. And when I went on the pitch, I didn't feel like my mates were playing. And the movement were poor. And so when I got the ball and I'm looking for someone to pass, it was tight. It got closed down. And, you know, nothing was really smooth. And, you know, I look back and think I could have had a better game. And maybe was it that? I don't know. But it was very harsh because the situation surrounding everything was poor, and it was not the best setup for any player coming into to be able to go and play there. We drew 1-1, you know, great experience, and I thought that would be the start of my career. That was the first game, going to build on that, very excited for the future. And then I got a letter from the FA, and I wish I'd have kept it, but I didn't. I think I threw it away. And it said I'd been dropped for wearing the wrong tracksuit, and my dress code reflected my attitude, and I wouldn't be picked for the World Cup. Well, I just don't know what to say. I don't think it sunk in actually at first. I was like, what? What do you mean? What do you mean? Who even does that? Who even drops somebody for wearing the wrong tracksuit? Would you drop David Beckham for the wrong tracksuit? That was my first thought. Does David Beckham get dropped for his wrong tracksuit? That is ridiculous. And it's an insult to me And the 4 years that I had been with England, to say that my dress code reflected my attitude, because my attitude was spot on, you know. And I think sometimes, you know, other players, you know, there's always a little bit of banter, as there is now, you know. And I think my bad luck was, you know, one of my best mates played for England, and she used to put me in a headlock often, you know, just messing around. So when we weren't playing or something, you know, she might be in the headlock, and I'd be like, get off me, get off me. And I think probably they just turned round, and at that point, I was probably the one who was messing about. And it wasn't even me. It was just association, you know, with somebody else. So, you know, I think circumstances came into play. And for whatever reason, I was only meant to have that one full cap. And obviously, life took me in a different direction. But it did not go well after that, to be fair, because there was no mental health back then. There was nobody like myself to help myself, to call and say, you know, this has happened, being rejected, you know, for a stupid reason. What do you do? And I left the game. I went on to play for Everton for a little while, but I didn't even peak to my full potential, and I quit the game in infuriation, really. I thought it was disgraceful, and I felt like nobody even pulled me to one side and said, you know what, you can get back in this team, you know, you can go again. There's still a chance for England, you know. Nobody ever said that to me. And I just felt like my dream had ended. That were it. There were no way I were going to get in the squad with this guy and this team of management that was in there. I obviously wasn't. And what's the point? What's the point in playing? Because my ultimate is not, I'm not playing for fun. I'm playing to fulfill a dream and play for my country. And that is my aim, and that is my goal. And if I don't have that, how can I play? How can I get my motivation? You know, so I actually stuck two fingers up and said, see you later. I'm not playing. Goodbye. And I quit too soon. I was very good, even at 28, 29. Very good player still. I had many years in me, probably. And nobody, again, at that time got hold of me and said, oh, they did a bit, but don't leave, you know, carry on. And I was quite strong-minded anyway, so I think people didn't even try to stop me. I said, see you later. I'm gone. And I went on to have a good career playing tennis. I still play to a high level now. So I'm still a sportswoman. I'm still an elite sportswoman, just actually in a different sport. And it was my career that's taken, you know, during COVID, I think we all restocked and to see where we are in life. And I was doing a different job. And I always knew that, especially when I got injured and I snapped my Achilles, I didn't have anybody to look after me. And I thought, I really want to give back to football. And I really want to look after players mentally, you know, with how they feel. And, you know, because I'm quite a strong-minded person. Yes, I've been through, you know, some things which we all have, you know, and I'm trying to prevent that as well. You know, don't do what I did and kind of go off the rails for a while, you know. Now, what's brought me back is helping players. So I've had clients who have come to me with many issues off the field. I've helped them. They've got back into the football. They're playing again. They're doing really well. And that is actually giving me my passion for the game is coming back through them. I haven't particularly got it myself. You know, I don't always watch football. I'm not somebody who's an avid fan. I'm very, you know, I'm out, not bothered about it. But, you know, these players that I'm actually mentoring, I'm so excited that when I go watch them, it's all there. I've still got it. The game, the passion for the game has never gone. It's just not come out. It's been subsided because of my experiences. I didn't even want to watch another football match for 4 years. You know, I couldn't even look at it at the telly. I was so upset, you know, for that. But, you know, it shouldn't have happened. And it did. But, you know, I'm a big believer in fate. And it wasn't for me. And like I said, I've gone on to help other people. And I've gone different ways in my career. And I wouldn't have met the experience that I've had here if I'd have probably gone that way. But it was out of my control. It wasn't something that I could do anything about. Somebody had made that decision for me, and I have to accept it and make a decision on what to do about it and how to handle that. And I did all that on my own. And that was quite difficult, especially when you're a bubbly personality as well. And then everybody's going, oh, are you still with England? And I have to say, no, it's hard. That is awful to say I'm not in the England. Well, why are you not? I can't even explain it myself, why I'm not in the England squad. But somebody, I'm just not for wearing the wrong tracksuit. But like I said, I think it don't make you want to go again, does it? So I haven't had a great relationship with the FA, in my career, even to the point of when we have had reunions, I haven't been invited to them, and I felt very pushed out. Why have they not invited me to a reunion? And somebody's gone when they've got one cap, and I was with them for 4 years. I think they forget that 4-year period feels like it's been lost a little bit. Just because I got the because on one game I played in, I was with them for years. So it turns out they lost the records and they had no history of my game. And we've looked into it, and they kind of said, well, there were a Wembley reunion, and I'm not proving that I played for England. I'm not proving that. It's not for me to prove. So you can, if you don't want to invite me to Wembley to do, to wave to the crowd and take that recognition, that's fine. I don't need that recognition. It's wrong, but I don't need it. And I said, why don't you go to the Italian FA and speak to them and see what they're saying? And they did. And that's where they found the record for the game that I played. But if that wouldn't have been found, the FA had lost all our records, or my records, my history. My history's been wiped. So it's very wrong, isn't it? But these are the things that happened, Jamie, probably written on pen and paper. And I think it was, actually. I'm not even lying. I've got a copy of it, and then somebody's actually written it, So, or in a program. But yeah, them different times. Just that's all. Different times.
Well, I'm still just thinking about the manager that banned you guys from eating sausages. We do have it with managers banning specific things, like the men's team, like Roberto Mancini banned PlayStations, so that's a bit more of a difference. But I don't necessarily agree with it, because I feel like if you're going to be hammered at every opportunity that the manager gets to do, then I don't think you're going to play as well. But in terms of the reunions and in terms of these records, I mean, obviously it is written on pen and paper, you presume, as it may have been back in the day. But do you think that there's perhaps another reason as to why they haven't invited you to things? Or but maybe
well, you begin to think that you could easily get paranoid, couldn't you? But then again, you have to look at yourself and you say, well, I know I haven't done anything wrong. There's obviously just been a mistake, an error. And they did apologise. I have had an apology to say, and they invited me to a match and things like that. So, we're trying now. Things are very different. They're trying to build bridges. There's a lot of women, not just myself, who've had some terrible experiences with the FA. We're not particular fans. We're trying to be. We're coming round. They're working on us. They're inviting us at places. That's helping rapport. So, we're trying to build and put the past behind us. But it wasn't even probably the FA when I was playing. It was the WFA. And there were separate organisations. So you had the Women's Football Association and the FA. And then we merged again just before I was dropped, actually. It was a very changing period where they'd become the FA. So I don't blame anybody, it happens, but, obviously if you work in an office, you should keep the information.
Yeah, for sure. That's the bare minimum, right?
Yeah.
Your last two clubs, as you mentioned, were Leeds and Everton. And I suppose Everton was the last major one before your retirement.
Yes.
And what was it like to say goodbye to football? Although you were in that difficult period, to say goodbye to something that you're with for years must be quite hard.
Yeah, it was, because I'd done it for a long time. And but I always knew I wasn't going to be one of them players who played till I was 40, because I wanted to go when my time was up. But my time, I still had a lot to give, to be fair. But I'd made that decision. I think, when I got to 30, I'm going to cut it off anyway. I had nothing to play for, at that time. So, yeah, I quit the game. It was difficult at first, but I do have a lot to my life, actually, in where it's not just football. So for a lot of people, football, they breathe it, they live it, they eat it, they, dream about it. It's all football. And my life was never all football. So on purpose, I had different interests. that out of the game that I did. So I played tennis, family stuff, animals were a big factor in my life, and I was always busy, and I still am always busy, So when I actually left the game, it wasn't such a big void in that, but it was empty. It was an empty void when I left Everton. And what I missed the most, I think, was the people and the training. Definitely the training of it, the keeping fit. My body obviously changed slightly. Well, not for the better, and leaving friends as well, because I really had a good relationship with all the toffees, and obviously coming from Yorkshire, they'd take the mickey out of my accent, but I made some really good friends and played with some great players and great managers as well. So at Everton, Mo Marley, who was with the England under 21s and things like that, was a great manager and inspiring, and played with Rachel Unit. Players who've gone on to play for England, Kelly Mack, so many players I could name that have gone on to do bigger and better things, So disappointing to leave in a way, but once I've made that decision, I was very headstrong and didn't have any doubts that I'd made the right decision, that it was my time. I'd had a good career. I'd won all the medals there were to win in football. And I'd also gone on to play for my country. Not as many times as I would like to, but I mean, it's not a bad innings, is it, Jamie, to quit on?
No, exactly. So, it's not. When you were travelling to Italy and around the England squad, a bit of a weird question, I'm sure, but obviously the other day, England, for example, had their own plane, just the England team. When you were there, was it the same?
I think now. I'm pretty sure we didn't have our own plane. No, I'm pretty sure we didn't. Trying to think how we even got to Italy. I remember the coaches. We always had big coaches, like you do have the big coach. But I don't think it was it must have been actually, because I don't know. I don't remember going on with everybody. I can't remember that actually, the plane. I cannot remember whether we had a private plane. I don't think we did, because I think I'd have been talking about it more. So I think we generally just got on a plane, and it probably were a public one, going to via Mallorca. I don't know. But no, we certainly, I'm pretty sure we didn't have our own plane, but we had our own coaches and, the hotel and things like that. Everything was laid on for us, with it being food and facilities and things like that. We did start getting better facilities. So, Lillishall, which is very similar to Bisham Abbey, were beautiful. And St George's Park now, when I go down there, it always brings back memories as soon as I go through the gates, the open spaces, the bike rides that we did, and all the pictures. Oh, as soon as I turn through them gates, I think it just takes me back to Lillishall, and happy times, some really happy times, and great facilities, as we were getting. They're fantastic even more now. But even back there, when we come from a pitch with hardly no grass on, to then go to Lillishall, that was an upgrade. So we were very pleased with small things, I think, which is good.
Well, the biggest thing happened on the weekend. Obviously, the Euros returned home for the second time in a row. Did you watch the final?
I certainly did. I like to watch it in peace. I don't really like to go to the pub and have somebody jumping on me. I had a cup of tea and I watched it in my front room very quietly and silently and reflectively on my own, and cheered on to myself. And I was clapping them all the way. They took us to the edge all the tournament. On just heart attack moments. We thought we were gone with the last game. We thought we were down and out. We've come back. I always felt that the writing was on the wall for us. So I'm not surprised actually that we won it, because I felt it all the way through that we were going to do it. I just knew that, a bit like that. Just knew it. And all the luck that we'd had, I thought, well, has our luck run out, or is it meant to be? And it was obviously written and meant to be, because we just got carried there with a little bit of luck. Balls fell at people's feet in order to put it away. And went to penalties, obviously, more than we'd like, because it were very nerve-wracking that. But a big up to all them players who stepped up to take a penalty. It's not an easy thing to do. Some scored, some didn't, but it doesn't matter about that. The fact that you got up and you had a go at one is a big thing. And again, a little bit of luck. Not so much with Chloe Kelly's, because she blasted it in the net at 100 mile an hour, but to finish it off. And I actually said to Chloe, and I'm a bit intuitive, you know. I just feel things a little bit, and that's why I'm good at my job, I suppose, because I'm good with people. And I just felt for Chloe that her time was going to come. I just felt it was building, even inside me. I felt Chloe, something's coming with Chloe. And I told her just before she went, and I were down at St George's Park, and I said, Chloe, I said, I'm telling you now, your time is coming. Right, I'm telling you, this is your time to shine. Something big is going to happen. And I knew. I said, I'm telling you, this is your time. And she said, yeah, you know, yeah, oh, let's hope, kind of thing. And so even for her to be that star player a little bit, to stand out, has not surprised me at all, because I felt that from Kelly, and I just felt her time was going to come, and it has, and she's able to show, you know, the quality she's got, not just as a player, but even a character. You know, that is, you know, it gets everybody going a little bit, doesn't it? It's vibrant.
That Arsenal side has got some potential going into this new WSL campaign. But Chloe Kelly, people also haven't really seen on social media too much, which she actually came on and got an assist in the final as well for Russo's goal. And she was just electric the whole tournament. And I'm not quite sure why she left City. I'm not quite sure why she didn't start more games in the tournament. But overall, moving on to these days, we still see like Russo, Toon, these big name players with kids with their names on the back of their shirts. And it's some growth in the game, even in the last 5 years. Amazing.
You know, we never had our names on shirts. That wasn't something we did. But to see the kit and what they get now, and how they're inspiring the youth, and like I said, to see children wearing Toon and you know, Russo and things like that, you know, it's brilliant. It's embarrassing to look back and see how bad it actually was for everybody, and it was worse for people before me, you know. But for me to not be able to play football at school, for example, you know, and the boys have a team.
Were you just banned from playing?
Well, I did get into the team a little bit, but it were frowned upon, and we couldn't play against other boys. You know, so yeah, I was more or less banned from playing. I wasn't allowed to play in the boys' team. Well, how can we produce champions? How can we produce players? And why are we stopping, suffocating girls to not allow them to let them just be and play football and see what we've got in this country? We're not even allowing that ability to come through. And even now, it's disgraceful. It's absolutely disgraceful that girls are not playing football at school, or not able to, or it's not encouraged. It's disgraceful. I think it needs to be looked at. And, you know, how can we inspire the nation if it's not starting from the bottom to the top? How can we produce these elite athletes if we're not even letting them do the sport?
But it's good we've got the vocal names. Like, there's a lot of players in that England team that are calling out for this sort of stuff. But it is mad that still there's schools and people that mindsets are still back in the past. The last thing from me then would be your legacy number. So your number 105. And does a legacy number mean that you can go up online and research who all these people are, like, quite easily?
The legacy numbers, everybody's had got a legacy number, haven't they now? And although I did really want a cap for the game I played in Italy, you know, with it written on, they wouldn't give me a cap. That was another thing, Jamie. I never even were given a cap.
What?
And I said, I've nothing to show for me playing for my country. I had an old shirt, but other than that, I didn't even get a cap. And they said, we don't give caps for friendlies. I said, well, Wayne Rooney's got one. So what's different? So why does Wayne Rooney get a cap and I don't? Well, it just needs to be equal, doesn't it?
Are you still pushing the FA for that, or
no? I've given that up because they've now obviously said that they're giving legacy caps, and so I kind of accepted to be happy with a legacy cap. I'd rather have a cap than none. So I thought, I don't push my luck. So yeah, 105th woman to play for England, and it means a great deal to me. I've got the red cap with the tassel, and you know, I'll probably get that framed at some point with my England shirt. But actually, I haven't even seen it for about a year because my friend took it, because I said, take it out of my house because it will get either messy or somebody will drop something on it. And I said, take it away from me. And I haven't seen it. So she's got it. And I've totally forgotten about it in a way that she's got it. So yeah, I do have it, but it's not in my house actually. But it means a great deal to me to be, you know, on that legacy. And to have gone before in order to give them a platform to do what they can do now. We would never have dreamed about having that platform, about doing that. And if I look back and think, if I had to look forward and think, what could I achieve in the game, I would be so inspired. I think I'd just, you know, I'd look like I were on something, because I'd be running like just 100 mile an hour in order to just do everything I could, you know, because it's so exciting to be wanting to be a part of that. And when I look back, we didn't have any of that. The ultimate, it wasn't even the Europe. The ultimate was playing for England and a chance of going around the country, you know, with England, your country. But other than that, that was the ultimate. The ultimate. There was no more after that. There was no European Cup or anything like that. So obviously, when you haven't got that goal, then you know. There's no point for me. And I know that's a bit negative, but there wasn't. That's how I worked. I'm either in or I'm out. You know,
Well,
yeah.
Well, look, Chantel, I think your career is nothing but inspiring.
Yes.
Thank you very much for representing our country. What an absolute honour it is to hear,
Thank
and what
you.
an honour it must be to play.
And congratulations to them as well, too.
Yes, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for joining me today, Chantel. Nothing but inspiring.
Thank you very much, Jamie. No worries. Thanks for having me. Cheers.
Amazing. I appreciate that, Chantel. Seriously, really interesting stuff. Like, it is crazy to see like the transition from what you're saying to what it is now.